I'm going to walk through the DJI Mavic Air 2 Fly More combo with the smart controller the way a buyer would, thinking about the real questions that keep you up at night. Will I actually use all these features? Is the price justified for the footage I need? And what happens if I end up with a drone that feels more like a hobbyist toy than a workhorse? The answer, as you'll see, hinges on how you plan to fly. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what the Mavic Air 2 actually gives you when you pull it out of the case. The camera is a 48-megapixel sensor that can shoot 4K video at up to 60 frames per second, mounted on a 3-axis gimbal. For most creators, that means you can capture crisp aerial stills and buttery smooth video without having to wrestle with color grading to hide sensor noise. In daylight, the half-inch CMOS performs solidly, textures stay sharp, and the dynamic range is enough to keep a bright sky from blowing out while still preserving details in the ground. In low-light situations, think early evening or overcast days, the sensor does start to show its age. Noise creeps in at higher ISO, and you'll notice a slight softening of edges. If you regularly shoot at dusk or under streetlights, you'll probably want to bring an extra light source or accept that the footage will need a bit more post-processing. Autofocus is another practical point. DJI has refined its phase detect system enough that you can lock onto a subject, push the joystick, and the focus will stay confident even as you change altitude. I tried tracking a cyclist moving through a park, and the camera kept the rider crisp without hunting. That reliability makes the Air 2 a decent option for action shots, but it's not as aggressive as the tracking on the newer Mini 3 Pro. If you need pinpoint focus on a fast-moving subject like a drone race or wildlife, you may find the system a little sluggish. Stabilization is where the Mavic Air 2 shines. The 3-axis gimbal, combined with DJI's internal algorithms, produces footage that feels almost cinematic straight out of the box. I took it on a weekend hike, panning over a river valley, and the result was a buttery glide with barely any wobble, even when the wind nudged the drone a few meters off course. For anyone who wants to avoid spending hours in a post-production stabilizer, that's a real time saver. Now, the smart controller. It's a 5.5-inch screen that bypasses the need for a phone, which solves a couple of pain points. First, you don't have to worry about phone battery draining mid-flight. And second, the controller's brightness is calibrated for outdoor visibility, so you can see the live feed even under bright sunlight. The downside is that the controller adds about 200 grams to the total carry weight, and the built-in screen, while bright, can be reflective when you're flying in low-angle sun. If you already have a reliable phone and a sturdy case, you might skip the smart controller and keep the pack lighter. Battery life is always a headline number. DJI claims 34 minutes per charge. In practice, you'll see around 30 minutes of usable flight in calm conditions, dropping to the low 20s when you're doing aggressive maneuvers or fighting headwinds. The Fly More combo includes 3 spare batteries, a charging hub, and a carrying case, which mitigates the "you'll only get 20 minutes" anxiety for most weekend flyers. The hub lets you charge all spares at once, but you still have to plan for a power outlet, so if you're traveling to remote locations without reliable electricity, you'll need a portable power bank or plan shorter sessions. Ease of use is a mixed bag. The first launch is fairly straightforward. Power up, let the drone calibrate, and the DJI Fly app walks you through the pre-flight checklist. The menus, however, can feel layered. You have to navigate through several screens to adjust the video bitrate, set a custom ISO, or enable the new ActiveTrack mode. Once you've gotten past that learning curve, the workflow becomes second nature. For beginners who just want a point-and-shoot experience, the menu depth might feel intimidating, but for hobbyists who like to tweak settings, the granularity is a plus. The lens ecosystem is essentially fixed. You're stuck with the 24mm equivalent f/2.8 lens. That works great for landscape, architecture, and most aerial storytelling. But if you wanted a telephoto perspective without digital zoom, you'll need a different drone. DJI hasn't opened up the Air 2 to interchangeable lenses, so it's not a platform for someone who wants to experiment with focal lengths over time. Practical strengths summed up: high-resolution stills, reliable 4K video, solid stabilization, decent autofocus for most moving subjects, a user-friendly controller that eliminates phone hassles, and a battery package that lets you stay in the air for a decent stretch. Practical weaknesses: low-light noise.